This is T. Today is February 4th, 2018. I'm going to talk about Las Vegas, the Las Vegas massacre, or Las Vegas shootings. There's a lot to cover here, so I figured we'd start with who we know was involved or close to the shooter. Bizarre, things just don't set right. Let's start with Marilou Danley. All the links will be below that I'm covering here. Marilou Danley, here she is. She was the girlfriend, or some publications call her the companion, of Stephen Paddock. They met when she was working as a high-limit hostess for Club Paradise at the Atlantis Casino Resort Spa in Reno, Nevada, is what Stephen's brother Eric said. Now, from what I understand, she is an Australian citizen. She moved to Australia to live with her daughter, married a local Australian man, was divorced, moved here to the USA, was married to an American man, divorced him. That's where she gets the last name Danley, by the way, by her American husband, who she divorced, and was then with Stephen Paddock. But she's still an Australian citizen, from what I understand, which means she has an Australian passport. So her ethnicity is Filipino, but she is an Australian citizen. Oh yes, and I also read that she too also used to live in Texas, if I have that correct. I just don't want to spend a lot of time on her, but I will look back at that, because Stephen Paddock also lived in Texas. He lived in Mesquite, Texas, and I'm just curious as to where she lived, if I do have that correct, that she also once lived in Texas. Her ex-husband, Mr. Danley, forget his first name, is now living in Arkansas. Moving on to Douglas Haig, who has just recently been indicted for selling specialized military ammunition to Stephen Paddock. In this tweet, Mike Tokes says, "Breaking: Judge unseals search warrant records. Second person of interest in the Las Vegas shooting has been identified as Douglas Haig." Haig's LinkedIn shows he had a Department of Defense top secret clearance, worked for top weapons manufacturers, and specialized in military ammunition. He has included some attachments. Let's take a look. Here's some screenshots of his LinkedIn account. Six Sigma, Earned Value Management, Design Engineering, Department of Defense, top secret clearance, USSO Com, and he knows how to speak both English and Spanish. And he has a patent, an advanced seal. He was a senior advanced LO technology development engineer at Northrop Grumman in El Segundo, California, from November 2004 to August 2010, so around 5, almost 6 years. Responsible for advanced technology development, test, and integration for advanced air, land, and sea military platforms. Held top secret SSBI with poly clearance. Principal focal point for development of advanced supportability, stealth, technology, and integration for integration and test on customer systems. Principal engineer responsible for development, test, integration, and production manufacture of multiple advanced technologies, including precision carbon-loaded honeycomb and advanced coatings, Magram utilizing a fluorinated silicone carrier, designed and fabricated prototype treatments and systems for integration into customer and internally Supplied Systems. Advanced Materials Development Test and Integration Engineer, Boeing. From March 1991 through September 2004, so almost 14 years, in both Seattle, Washington and Palmdale, California. Product Support and Design Liaison Engineer for multiple Boeing programs. So here's where it starts to get really bizarre, and I started to think there's a whole lot going on here, because what's missing out of all of this is Stephen Paddock's hard drive. So whatever went on that night, somebody has information. Somebody was after information, and it just gets more bizarre from there. Now let's take a look at what this company does. The main thing that stuck out here at Northrop Grumman is drones. Unmanned helicopters, they call them by many different names, but yeah, military equipment. Drones. Here we have a picture of a drone to the left. What we do, Northrop Grumman is a leading global security company providing innovative systems, products, and solutions to government and commercial customers worldwide, offering an extraordinary portfolio of capabilities and technologies for applications from undersea to outer space and into cyberspace. So going back over to Douglas Haig's LinkedIn account, he was a senior liaison engineer, product support engineer for Boeing from August 2010 to June 2013, almost 3 years in Mesa, Arizona. Senior product support engineer for A-160 unmanned helicopter program. Hold top secret SSBI clearance, responsible for all manufacturing issues, metallic composite for A-160 prototype. And on it goes. So provide engineering, disposition, instructions, rework, repair, etc. So this guy has a lot of knowledge. And what's missing is knowledge and or information from that night, the hard drive. Both of these men, Stephen Paddock and Douglas Haig, had a lot of information about many things. A little closer look at Douglas Haig, the 55-year-old aerospace engineer who we now know had top secret clearance with the Department of Defense, did not have a license to manufacture and sell the armor-piercing bullets he sold to Stephen Paddock in the weeks before the massacre that left 58 people dead. Paddock died at the scene from an apparently self-inflicted gunshot wound. Haig also sold Stephen Paddock some tracer ammunition, which is built with a small pyrotechnic charge that produces a bright trail of light to allow a shooter to see the bullet's trajectory during nighttime firing or other low visibility scenarios. Moving on now to Stephen Paddock himself. We're at Wikipedia, and I'm going to jump around, possibly, from a few other things and come back to Wikipedia because there are some things that really aren't making sense. We'll start with his career and gambling habits. He worked as a carrier for the U.S. Postal Service from 1976 to 1978. After that, he worked as an Internal Revenue Service agent until 1984. Then he was a federal auditor for 1 year in 1985, focusing on defense contractors. Towards the end of the 1980s, Paddock worked for 3 years as an internal auditor for a company that later merged to form Lockheed Martin. He had real estate involvements there with his brother Eric. He made a lot on his apartments, one of which was a Dallas suburb, Mesquite. And of course, Paddock was an avid gambler. And although the extent to which he profited from is not clear, his reported gambling winnings might have been substantial. He was sometimes seen in high-limit rooms, but he was not well known among high-stakes gamblers in Las Vegas and was not considered a whale by the casinos. His game of choice was video poker, which he had played for over 25 years. He usually gambled after dark and slept during the day. He disliked being out in the sun. Okay, so several things stuck out to me while doing the research on the Las Vegas massacre. These two being one. So we have two people who worked for defense contractors, major defense contractors. And for those who don't know what Lockheed Martin is, let's have a look at that real quick. What are they into? What do they do here? This is just one of the things that they do because they are a major supplier of all kinds of weapons. But here we have again unmanned and autonomous systems. They make drones, state-of-the-art drones. And check it out. Under civil. Okay, not military, but civil. Not commercial, but civil. So that would mean like a personal, if I'm getting this correctly. Unmanned helicopters. Time is critical for first responders and firefighters, and unmanned systems can help to reduce both time and cost in scenarios like search and rescue, firefighting, and disaster relief, where manned assets may be grounded or roads unimproved. So here we have the unmanned helicopters again and drones. Now this could mean two possible things. Maybe a drone was used that night. Maybe it was the information somebody was after. Another thing that sticks out to me here is how Stephen Paddock had worked with money. Let's say he was an internal auditor for many places. Okay, a couple of places, the IRS, and he actually focused on defense contractors. And then he worked for an internal auditor directly for Lockheed Martin. So he was once auditing defense contractors for the IRS, then he went and worked for one. That's not really that unusual, whatever, but then his career after this period is not entirely clear. Real estate and casinos are known for laundering money. Here's a quick search page. Bank capture. In this case, money launderers or criminals buy a controlling interest in a bank, preferably in a jurisdiction with weak money laundering controls, and then move money through the bank without scrutiny. Casinos. In this method, an individual walks into a casino and buys chips with illicit cash. There's many ways that works. Y'all can look into that. So that sticks out to me. And then the real estate is another way that people launder money. People launder money for other entities. Back to Wikipedia here, we see that Paddock, and sometimes Marilou Danley was with him and sometimes not, traveled all over the place on cruises. In 2010, Paddock applied for and received a U.S. passport. He went on 20 cruise ship voyages, visiting several foreign ports, including in Spain, Italy, Greece, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates. He was accompanied by his girlfriend on 9 of them. They went to the Philippines together in 2013 and 2014. Paddock had his pilot's license since at least 2004 and owned 2 small planes. Which brings us to this Newsweek article, which we're going to come back to. But these numbers that were found in the hotel suite, which law enforcement is claiming to be shooting ratios, from so many feet, how many yards away, whatnot. I'm wondering if it's cryptocurrency and exchanges. Paddock, having been a long time auditor, arms dealer, whatever went down that night, it makes me wonder a little bit more about these numbers. My uneducated guess on how money laundering works with casinos would be that somebody with the money to be laundered buys the chips. In this case, it could possibly be Stephen Paddock, and may win or lose. So the money's actually being laundered by the casino itself. They just need somebody to walk it in there and dump it. A middleman. That person would appear most likely to be very wealthy. If this was going on with Stephen Paddock, and he knew something big was going to be going down that night, of course he may give $100,000 to Marilou Danley and say, run off and start a new life. Some things just don't add up here. Now, speaking of the casino, here we are with James Murren in Wikipedia. He is the CEO of MGM Resorts International, headquartered in Paradise, Nevada. He's a member of the National Infrastructure Advisory Council. Okay, let's look at that real quick and we'll come back to James Murren. The National Infrastructure Advisory Council shall provide the President through the Secretary of Homeland Security with advice on the security of the critical infrastructure sectors and their information systems. The Council is composed of a maximum of 30 members appointed by the President from private industry, academia, and state and local government. Okay, let's go back to Wikipedia, to James Murren. Now, James Murren was named by President Obama to serve on the National Infrastructure Advisory Council. During Murren's tenure, MGM joined with Dubai World in the development of the Las Vegas Strip's City Center. When City Center opened in December 2009, it represented the largest single private development and the largest green project ever undertaken in the nation's history, and America's #1 generator of new jobs during the Great Recession. Senator Harry Reid said, "The Las Vegas community may never be able to express its appreciation adequately for all that Jim has done, but his hard work hasn't gone unnoticed." Here's a more recent article from Las Vegas Review-Journal. It's from March 25th, 2017. Relationship with Dubai renewed with deal by MGM Resorts subsidiary. Now, they had a very rocky past with that city center. 6 construction workers died building it, and they both threatened each other. Both companies threatened each other. Now, by company, keep in mind that Dubai World is not actually a company. It is, but it is government ran from the United Arab Emirates, or the UAE. They both threatened to sue each other and were both very close to going completely bankrupt. So now they've entered this new deal earlier last year, and who knows what's going on behind closed doors. All of this may seem far-fetched, but not so much. Here we are at CNN Money. This is an older story. It was March 18th, 2016, so not really that long ago. Casinos, money laundering, and wire transfers inside a global bank heist. It's kind of strange too, because Stephen Paddock's father was a bank robber. Anyway, it's a real life heist that sounds straight out of Hollywood. 101 million in stolen funds taken from a secure account disappeared into a murky world of casinos and money laundering. Now, several countries were involved in this, including the United States. The United States didn't get hit that hard because it was caught by the New York Fed. And the money trail starts at a bank in the Philippines. Yeah, so it ended up in casinos in the Philippines, where it was laundered. It is not clear whether the bank manager was acting alone or if others at the RCBC were involved. A lawyer for the bank manager told a local radio station that his client was being singled out as a scapegoat and accused the bank of attempting a cover-up. So this link will be below with the others. They've never caught this person. And it all ended up in casinos in the Philippines. And while I have Stephen Paddock's Wikipedia open, just wanted to point out again that he sailed to the United Emirates. I don't know how many times or all of that. Now, I want to look at something else. I noticed here in Wikipedia, it mentions this .308 caliber Ruger American bolt action rifle. It says on September 29th, he moved into another suite connected to the first one. Both rooms overlooked the festival grounds. He stayed in both in the days leading up to the shooting. After Paddock killed himself, the police found 23 rifles and 1 handgun inside his room. They included, and it lists this .308 caliber Ruger American bolt action rifle. So it says that that gun was found. So unless he had more than one Ruger American bolt action rifle, then it's not missing. Or were we not told that it was found? Because in this article from dailymail.com, the whole story, exclusive, the missing gun. Stephen Paddock bought a high-powered Ruger rifle just hours before arriving in Las Vegas, but the $600 weapon was not found among his 23-weapon arsenal of death. It goes on here again to say that it was not found. Paddock paid $600 for a Ruger American .308 bolt-action rifle with an 18-inch barrel and 4-round capacity from Guns and Guitars in his hometown of Mesquite. Now, this is the weapon he bought from Guns and Guitars from Jonathan Skipper Speece, who was a bodyguard for Cliven Bundy. So was it found or not? Because Wikipedia lists it as being there. I mean, it's been months now, and did they just update Wikipedia and never updated this article? Because this article says that it was updated here at the top, updated on October 6th. But going further, we find that this wasn't the only gun that Paddock bought from Jonathan Skipper Speece at Guns and Guitars. He says Paddock bought just one of the guns that was found in his hotel suite from Guns and Guitars, a Sig Sauer 716. So something there doesn't make sense. Not only that, but I read this article a few more times, and Jonathan Skipper Speece had stated that Paddock was in and out of there a few times, and he would even put guns on consignment. So, like swapping them out here and there. Can you sell this one, and looking at another one, maybe buying another one, and then maybe bringing it back and selling it on consignment. So, I don't know. I just find that kind of odd for a person that's supposed to be really wealthy, but hey, if that's his pastime, I guess, whatever. Moving on to where this takes yet more twists. Here's a tweet with a partial list of items taken from shooter's Mandalay Bay hotel room. And some are not legible. There's a lot that's not legible. In a police report, why would things not be legible at this point? It's months later, even typed out. So you got your basics, casings, hairs, eyelash, but 54 towels, 54 towels, a portable solar generator, 2 personal massagers, tubing with snorkel, funnel, and mask, bear mace. This is sounding to me like there was some kind of torture going on. We know he was found with child porn. So something more was going on there. These things to me look like something very painful went down here. This looks like more than just setting up some surveillance devices. This drill bit looks like it's the bit that's used to drill a hole in something. That snorkel mask and that snipping tool up there, this just does not look right, and I'll tell you why. It was this picture right here that got me thinking that perhaps torture had occurred. Initially I thought, hey, maybe he was going to use this setup device with the snorkel mouthpiece and tubing in the fan. There was also a fan in the room to help him had there been any tear gas, or if he was able to blow up those gas tanks or whatever, so that he'd have fresh air of some kind, and putting a wet towel perhaps on the fan. But the more I thought about it, and I looked it up, and sure enough, there is a water torture. A funnel was also found, and it's a funnel is used in this torture, and they just keep pouring water into the person's mouth. It's been used in several countries during wartime or whatever. Something here went down. In my opinion, that's the only thing that makes sense to me now. I get the feeling that there were cameras set up all over the place, inside, and then there's at least this one that is outside of the room on the room service cart. This just doesn't seem like your run-of-the-mill accountant gambler who went crazy one day, even if he planned it for a while. Why would he even want to survive that? I'm just not buying it. There was something more that was supposed to go down here. a spy mission that went wrong, whether it's the child porn torture, something went down and didn't end well. So this picture really creeps me out here. We see the tubing that had the snorkel mouthpiece to it. And I noticed this ice chest because a fan was mentioned. And when I looked up different techniques of torture, there is sleep deprivation, and where ice water is used, and then they keep a fan or a really cold air conditioner blowing on the person. This appears to be possibly the black vase that was found that Stephen Paddock had purchased with an artificial flower arrangement in it, which makes me wonder about that drill bit again that appeared to be the kind of drill bit used to drill a hole into something. So possibly he was using it as a surveillance station here, which would bring us to this very area where the tubing is. I don't see the fan, but I don't know exactly what's been moved, and these pillows look like they could possibly be wet. That's just my observation, and it's pretty creepy. And if that is the case, then somebody is missing. I don't see how this could be anything other than something extremely more sinister than what we're being told. Again, with the money laundering, if you don't get paid, if you're laundering money and you don't get paid, because they said he was losing. He was on a losing streak for a while. If he's a money launderer and he's been losing, if that shows on a record anywhere anyway, then he was going to be left holding the bag anyway. So I don't know. I have a few other theories. Maybe I'll make a few more videos, because the more I dug into the story, there's a lot that goes on in Vegas, and I'd like to look at a few other things as well. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.
I'm your boogeyman.